But we are in Mobile, Alabama, talking with military leaders about the Trump administration's shipbuilding effort. I spoke about the topic with Navy Secretary John Phelan. We started the day at the Ingalls Shipyard in Pascagoula, Mississippi, aboard one of the newest ships being finished there. All right, Mr. Secretary, this is LHA-8, Bougainville. This is an amphibious assault ship. And you've got some things being built here.
Yeah, it's a great ship. You know, the motto of the ship is no better friend, no worse enemy. And that's a Marine Corps motto, but this ship will have over 1,500 Marines on it when it gets ready to ship out, and roughly about 1,000 sailors.
So on this yard, it's the biggest one. You've got 13 in the yard, 18 under construction broadly. I mean, that's a lot moving, but it takes time.
Yes. Yeah, this ship could take almost 6 years to build. We're looking to make this faster. And so our biggest constraint today is workers, a number of workers. And I think the president has correctly, zeroed in on that and talked about the ability to build. A nation needs to be able to build to have national security. And we need to get back to building, and we need to hire more workers to build these ships.
It's a competition.
Correct.
I mean, we are in direct competition with China.
Yes,
right?
yes. And I think the president, as you know, is very focused on the maritime industrial base and putting money into the maritime industrial base. And what he's seen is we've stopped building things. I like to say we spent the last 10 years teaching people how to code. We're going to spend the next 10 teaching them how to use their hands. So making things is critical to national security. It's part of our national sovereignty. And so I actually view the shipyard workers are just as important as the sailors and Marines who will take this ship and go into harm's way. They are part of our national security and national sovereignty.
Yeah, as you look at all these cranes and all of this construction, I mean, this is going to be going on for some time.
We will be building ships for a long, long time, and we need to. You continue to need to replenish the fleet, make it better. The demands on the American Navy are quite big, and you've seen that with just the number of operations we've had this year. Absolute Resolve recently in Venezuela, very key Navy and the Marine Corps assets used in that. Midnight Hammer, doesn't get a lot of press, but submarine was very involved in that outlook, and then what we've had in the Red Sea with the Houthis.
We're going to restore America as a major shipbuilding power. We're going to ensure the USA is the most powerful fleet anywhere in the world.
The USS Defiant battleship will inspire awe and reverence for the American flag whenever it pulls into a foreign port. It will be a source of pride for every American when it brings home our brave sailors who will sail defiant, raise their fists, and say, "We are peace through strength."
The USS Alabama, a South Dakota-class battleship nicknamed the Mighty A, served in the Atlantic and Pacific theaters in World War II before being decommissioned in 1947. It opened as a museum ship, a National Historic Landmark in Mobile Bay in 1965. The USS Alabama, we're sitting in front of the museum here, was 45,000-ton battleship. The president's now announced the plans to build this Trump-class battleship, 35,000-ton ship, and the first ship named Defiant as part of this Golden Fleet. We've seen the pictures of it. It would be the largest non-aircraft carrier ship the Navy has built since World War II. What do you envision for this Golden Fleet?
First of all, Brett, thank you for having me. And I think it's really special to be in front of the USS Alabama, known as the Mighty A or the Lucky A. Fought both in the Atlantic and the Pacific, won 9 battle stars. And to be able to talk in front of this winter about the president's Golden Fleet, which he's made possible, is really an honor. So thank you for that. I think, look, at the end of the day, the Golden Fleet is about it's about 3 things. It's about maintaining and enhancing the Navy's maritime dominance. It's about revitalizing the maritime industrial base. And it's thirdly about changing the way we do business. So the Golden Fleet includes carriers, destroyers, submarines, and new concepts to take advantage of things we're learning. It also includes unmanned, so high-low is really the strategy we're going after.
Drones, et
Yes.
cetera. And for the people who say, well, that's the future of the military, why are you not just focusing on drones and unmanned vehicles? What do you say to that?
Yeah, what I say to that is, how would Operation Absolute Resolve have occurred if all we had were drones? It doesn't work. And the bottom line is, there is no more better projection of forward power than a United States Navy vessel.
So there are critics out there. Center for Strategic International Studies says this: the Golden Fleet's battleship will never sail. It'll take years to design, cost $9 billion each to build, and contravene the Navy's new concept of operations, which envisions distributed firepower. A future administration will cancel the program before the first ship hits the water. What do you say to that?
Well, what I say to that is they are mired in the old ways of doing things, and that's what that thought is. The other point I would make is we are going to move much faster. Deterrence is readiness. Readiness is capability. Capability is hulls in the water. So at the end of the day, we're going to get this ship designed, and we are going to start building it very quickly.
The president went to Truth Social today, shocked some people, especially in the defense industry, said that defense companies, military equipment production, are not producing our great military equipment rapidly enough, and once produced, not maintaining it properly or quickly. From this moment forward, these executives must build new and modern production plants, both for delivering and maintaining this important equipment and for building the latest models of future military equipment. Until they do so, no executive should be allowed to make in excess of $5 million. And I'll not permit dividends or stock buybacks for defense companies until such time as these problems are rectified. Well, that obviously hit the defense companies on the markets today. What about that move?
Our big defense companies are not performing. We are behind schedule, we're over budget, there's no accountability. And I'm supportive of what the president's trying to do, which is to get them to invest and put money back into the defense sector, which has allowed them to become as big as they are.
And armaments, missiles, there's all kinds of reporting about mapping out a battle potentially against China where we run out of munitions.
Yeah, munitions are a critical thing that we are very focused on, and I think the president, again, this is part of why I think he issued that tweet today. He has had enough, and we need to make sure, and the defense companies need to get their act together and start to perform, and that's really what that's about. And munitions is one component. You know, look, I think at the end of the day, we have not demanded accountability. We've allowed, substandard things to occur, and rightly so. He is tired of it, and all of us are.
And for that vision and the criticism that it's just going to get erased by another administration, what do you say to that? You want to get started, get it going, so that it's in place.
Look at how battle-tested our Navy is. Between the Red Sea, between what we just did in Venezuela, between what we did in Iran, the Navy is America's forward projection of power. If you are not a sea power, you are not a superpower. So I think any other administration that comes in, they're going to have to explain why they canceled something that the Navy views as a requirement to protect us and enhance sea lanes and maintain and enhance America's maritime dominance.
The U.S. used to spend roughly double on defense in the 80s compared to today as a percentage of GDP. Does the U.S. need to spend more? You know, we're looking at 3.2% to like 6% in the old days.
Ronald Reagan, I think, said the only thing more expensive than a Navy is not having a Navy, and I think that's very true. I think the risk people need to think about is what happens if we don't have the dominant Navy? It's a question you should ask yourself, and it would be a very bad thing. So at the end of the day, we do need to spend more on defense.
What's the thing that keeps you up at night?
Look, I once got asked by sailors in San Diego, what's your goal? And I said, my goal is basically having 0 caskets draped with an American flag. That's what keeps me up at night, making sure we have the appropriate tools, equipment, and training if we get into the fight. Hopefully people will see what happened with Absolute Resolve. We are not a country to be messed with, and the president is not someone to be messed with. And if you do, you're going to see the full might. So that's really what keeps me up at night.
And when you walk these shipyards and see what's being built and what you have planned to be built, you're hopeful?
We've kind of let things atrophy quite a bit. which means we have really nothing but upside to get better. So we already build the best ships in the world, and we build the best systems in the world. What we don't do is we don't do it fast, and we don't do it smart. And that's what we need to change. I don't think waiting for a war is a way to try to get better, not with how modern weapons and fighting today. Particularly the president's tweet today is a shot across the bow to the defense companies. You need to pick it up. And I think that's the right answer. And I think I'm optimistic that we'll start to see some action from them.
Mr. Secretary, thanks for the time.
Thank you, Brett. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.